33,000 feet. That is how far this woman fell, strapped inside the tail of an aircraft with no parachute after a bomb tore her plane apart. She lived. 27 other people on that flight did not. And that number I just gave you might be a lie. I will come back to that. Because these are 10 people who walked away from crashes that killed almost everyone around them, ranked by one thing only: how impossible it should have been. One of them survived 72 days in the Andes, and when he heard on the radio that the search for him had been called off, he cheered. Number 10. August 16th, 1987. Detroit. Northwest Airlines Flight 255 lifts off, gets barely 100 feet into the air, rolls, and comes down on the road at the end of the runway. 155 people on board. 154 die. The survivor is 4 years old. Firefighters find Cecelia Cichan still strapped into her seat in the debris field. Fractured skull, broken collarbone, third-degree burns. Her mother, her father, and her 6-year-old brother are all on that flight, and none of them survive. Investigators came to believe her mother unbuckled her own seatbelt in the last seconds and put her body over her daughter. Cecelia was raised in Alabama, deliberately away from the press, and she said nothing publicly for more than 20 years. When she finally did, as an adult, she said she has no memory of the crash at all, just a tattoo of an airplane on her wrist, so she can never forget the people she lost. She was found in 11 minutes. The next person waited 8 days. Number 9 is the deadliest accident in the history of aviation, and 61 people walked out of it. March 27, 1977, a bomb threat at another airport has diverted dozens of aircraft to a small island runway that was never built for this. 2 Boeing 747s are on that runway, in fog so thick the tower cannot see either of them. The KLM captain begins his takeoff roll believing he has been cleared. He has not. 583 people die. But here is what puts Tenerife on this list. The KLM aircraft is destroyed completely. The Pan Am aircraft is not. Its landing gear tears the roof off the Pan Am fuselage, and in the forward section and the left side of the upper deck, there are people who are simply still there when everything stops.
Fire on top of me, just completely surrounding me, and I just knew I was gone. And my lungs got full of smoke, and I was just about ready, just ready to give up. I just thought, well, this is death, and then it seemed like it cleared. Fire on top of me, just completely.
Survivors described looking up and seeing sky, so they climbed out through the hole, walked along the wing, and jumped into the grass. Some of them were far enough forward that they got out without knowing what had hit them. 61 people, in the worst disaster this industry has ever had. But at least the ground was underneath them. Number 8 had a mountain. 1992. Annette Herfkens is 31. She is a bond trader from the Netherlands, and she is terrified of flying. But her fiancé Willem has been working in Vietnam for months, and this is a holiday. So she gets on the aircraft, takes the seat beside him, and holds his hand on the runway. It flies into a mountainside. She wakes in the wreckage with a shattered jaw, a collapsed lung, and a leg broken so badly the bone is outside the skin. Willem is next to her. He is alive. For a while. She cannot walk. She cannot reach anything. And she is there for 8 days. She survives by folding a piece of the aircraft's insulation into a funnel and catching rainwater running off the leaves above her. A mouthful at a time. For a week. When rescuers reach the site, she is the only one of the 30 people on board still breathing. And here's the part nobody expects. She describes those 8 days as beautiful. She still flies. Herfkens had solid ground and 8 days. The next survivor had open ocean at night and could not swim. June 30th, 2009. The Indian Ocean, off the Comoros Islands. It is the middle of the night. Yemenia Flight 626 is on approach when it goes into the water. 152 people on board. Bahia Bakari is 12 years old, traveling with her mother. She is thrown clear of the aircraft into open ocean. No life jacket, no light, and she can barely swim. She finds a piece of floating wreckage, and she holds on to it for somewhere between 11 and 13 hours. Through the rest of the night, through sunrise, in water full of debris and fuel, with no idea whether anybody knew where she was or whether anybody was coming at all. A private boat found her the next morning. They threw her a life ring, and she was too weak to hold it, so somebody went into the water to get her. Her mother did not survive. 152 people died on that flight. On the next one, 520 did. And the crew fought for every one of them for 32 minutes. August 12, 1985. The deadliest single aircraft accident that has ever happened anywhere in the world. 12 minutes after takeoff from Tokyo, a repair made 7 years earlier fails. The rear pressure bulkhead ruptures, and the decompression blows the entire tail fin off the aircraft, taking all 4 hydraulic systems with it. No rudder, no elevators, no ailerons. They have engines, and that is all they have. And they fly it for 32 minutes. 32 minutes of a 747 rising and falling like a wave, with 524 people on board who understand exactly what is happening. Passengers wrote notes to their families. Some of those notes were recovered. The aircraft came down in the mountains of Gunma Prefecture. 4 people survived. All 4 were women, and all 4 were sitting in the same place, the rear left of the cabin, in a section that broke away and came to rest on the slope instead of being destroyed. And there is a detail here that has never stopped being painful in Japan. One of the survivors, an off-duty flight attendant, reported hearing other voices in the wreckage that night, people calling out, and hearing them gradually stop. Rescue teams did not reach the site until the following morning. Everything you have seen so far, you have had to imagine. Number 5, you can watch. June 12, 2025. Ahmedabad, India. The most recent entry on this list, Air India Flight 171, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner bound for London, comes down seconds after takeoff into a building near the airport. 242 people on board, 241 of them die. The one who does not is a 39-year-old man in an exit row window seat, and he was filmed walking away from it, not carried, walking, dazed, injured, on his own feet, with the sight burning behind him. From his hospital bed, Vishwash Kumar Ramesh told a local broadcaster that he could not explain it, that it was a miracle. His brother was on that flight. His brother did not survive. 4 months later, he spoke to British media and said the thing almost every person on this list eventually says in some form, that he had been given his life back and lost everything that made it his. He described the PTSD, the pain in his leg and his shoulder and his back that has not gone away. Here is what puts that in context. In the entire history of aviation, only 8 crashes have killed more than 100 people and left exactly 1 person alive. He is the most recent. Ramesh was in hospital within the hour. Number 4 waited 3 days, and then her own government pretended it never happened. You have almost certainly never heard this one. That was deliberate. August 1981. Larisa Savitskaya is 20 years old, and she is flying home from her honeymoon with her new husband Vladimir, somewhere over the Soviet Far East. At around 17,000 feet, their airliner collides in mid-air with a military bomber. The aircraft comes apart. Savitskaya is thrown, still in her seat, into a section of fuselage that falls out of the sky into a stand of birch forest. And the trees, bending and breaking as it comes down, take just enough energy out of the impact. She wakes up on the ground with spinal injuries and concussion next to her husband's body. And then she waits 3 days. 3 days alone in the taiga, badly injured, with the debris field and 37 dead people around her, before search teams reached the site. She built a shelter out of seat covers because at night it got cold. And then it gets worse. Because the Soviet state did not want a survivor. There was no press. There was no acknowledgement. She was reportedly compensated with a sum worth about the price of a meal and told, effectively, not to talk about it. She was in her 40s before most people in her own country learned she existed. Savitskaya was found in 3 days. Remember the man I mentioned at the start? The one who cheered when the search was called off? Number 3. October 13th, 1972. A chartered aircraft carrying a Uruguayan rugby team, their families, and their friends, 45 people, flies into the Andes. The impact kills 12. More die in the first days from injuries and cold. And this is the only entry on this list where surviving the crash is the easy part. They are at 12,000 feet, in the snow, in the broken fuselage of an aircraft, in shirt sleeves. There is no vegetation. There are no animals. There is nothing alive at that altitude except them. Search aircraft flew over. The wreckage was white against white. They saw nothing. On the 11th day, the survivors are listening to a small transistor radio one of them has repaired, and they hear a news bulletin. The search has been called off. They cheered. That is the part that stays with you. One of them turned to the group and said, "This was good news, because it meant nobody was coming. And it meant that from now on, whatever happened, they were getting themselves out." What happened next is the thing everybody knows about this story, and it deserves to be said plainly instead of sensationally. They had no food. So they made a decision together, openly, with everything that carried for a group of Catholic teenagers. They ate the bodies of their dead friends. Several of the dying had asked them to. Then, on day 17, an avalanche buried the fuselage while they slept inside it and killed 8 more. On day 61, 2 of them started walking west with a sleeping bag they had sewn out of insulation. Nando Parado and Roberto Canessa. They climbed a 17,000-foot peak because Parado wanted to see over it. What he saw on the other side was more mountains, in every direction, forever. They kept walking anyway. 10 days, 38 miles. On day 72, a Chilean farmer on the far side of a river saw 2 skeletal men waving at him. 16 came home. 72 days on a mountain. Number 2 was 17 years old, alone, and 2 miles above the Amazon when her plane came apart. Christmas Eve, 1971. Juliana Kupka is 17. She graduated high school in Lima the day before, and she is flying into the Peruvian Amazon to spend Christmas with her father. The aircraft flies into a thunderstorm and is struck by lightning. It disintegrates in the air. Kupka, still strapped into her seat, still attached to 2 empty seats either side of her, falls 2 miles into the rainforest. The current theory is that the row of seats acted like a rotor, spinning as it fell, generating just enough drag to slow her down, and the canopy took the rest. She woke on the forest floor the next morning with a broken collarbone and a deep gash in her arm. Alone, 60 miles from anything, wearing a sleeveless dress and 1 sandal. And here is why she is number 2. Both her parents were zoologists. She had spent a year and a half living at a research station in that exact rainforest, and her father had taught her one rule. If you are lost in the jungle, find running water and follow it downstream, because water leads to people. So a 17-year-old girl with a broken collarbone found a stream, and she walked for 11 days. She waded down the middle of the channel instead of the bank because her father had told her that is where you are safest from snakes. She poked the riverbed ahead of her with a stick to scare off stingrays. She ate nothing but a bag of sweets she found in the wreckage, and she passed other bodies, still strapped into their seats, and checked whether one of them was her mother, and made herself keep going when it was not. On the 10th day, she found a boat and a shelter next to it. The wound in her arm was full of maggots, so she poured gasoline from the boat's fuel tank into it and pulled them out herself. Dozens of them. Because she had watched her father do exactly that to a dog. The next day, lumber workers came back to the hut and found her. Her mother had survived the fall as well. Searchers later determined she had lived several days on the forest floor, alone, before dying of her injuries. Kupka fell 2 miles. Number 1 fell 6.
January 26, 1972. Vesna Vulovic is 22, a flight attendant for the Yugoslav National Airline, and she is not supposed to be on this aircraft. There was a scheduling mix-up. They confused her with a different Vesna. A briefcase bomb detonates in the cargo hold over Czechoslovakia. The aircraft breaks apart. Vulovic is in the tail section, pinned in place by a food cart jammed against her body. And the tail falls, with her inside it, from an altitude officially recorded at 33,330 feet. It is still the world record for the highest fall ever survived without a parachute. Nobody has come close since. It came down on a heavily wooded, snow-covered hillside at an angle that absorbed the impact. And the villager who found her had been a medic in the Second World War. He knew what to do with her before anyone else arrived. She was in a coma for 27 days. Her legs were paralyzed, her skull was fractured, several vertebrae were crushed, and she had no memory of the flight at all. The last thing she remembered was greeting passengers at the door. She learned to walk again. She went back to work for the airline, and she flew, as a passenger, for the rest of her life, and said she was never frightened once. Now, that number. In 2009, journalists investigating the crash argued that the aircraft was actually brought down from far lower than the official record says, and that the Yugoslav authorities inflated it. That investigation is disputed. It has never been resolved. Vulovic was asked about it for years. She said she did not care. She said the number was never the point, that whatever height she fell from, everyone else on that aircraft died, and she did not. And she had spent her whole life trying to work out what she was supposed to do with that. Every person on this list has had to answer that question. If you want the one that would not fit, look up George Lamson Jr., found still strapped into his seat, sitting upright in the middle of a road in Reno, Nevada in 1985. Which of these 10 would you have put at number 1? I know the Andes is going to be an argument.